bass thundered through Adriana's chest as she stepped into Inferno, the most exclusive nightclub in Manhattan. Red lights pulsed against black marble walls, and the crowd moved like a single breathing organism. Her best friend Keisha had dragged her here, insisting that 3 months of mourning her failed engagement was enough. "Girl, you need to remember what living feels like," Keisha had said, practically shoving a black dress into her hands. "Devin didn't deserve you anyway." Now, surrounded by New York's elite in a dress that hugged every curve of her brown skin like a second layer, Adriana felt exposed. Beautiful, yes, the dress made sure of that, but exposed. Her natural curls cascaded over her bare shoulders, and the slit in her dress revealed the smooth length of her leg with each step. "Drinks first, then we dance," Keisha announced, pulling her toward the VIP section. That's when Adriana saw him. He sat in a booth elevated above the main floor, separated from the masses by velvet ropes and men in expensive suits who looked more like soldiers than security. Even seated, his presence dominated the space. Sharp, aristocratic features that spoke of Korean heritage, dark hair swept back perfectly, and eyes like black diamonds that seemed to absorb all light. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car, and he held a glass of whiskey with the casual authority of a man who owned everything he surveyed, including, at that moment, her. Their eyes locked across the crowded club, and Adriana's breath caught. She'd never believed in the romance novel nonsense about time stopping, but something shifted in the air between them. His gaze traveled down her body with an appreciation that was almost tactile, and when his eyes returned to hers, his expression remained unreadable, but intensely focused. "Earth to Adriana." Keisha waved a hand in front of her face. "Why are you staring at Min-jun Park like you want to climb him like a tree?" Min-jun Park. The name meant nothing to her. Keisha's eyes widened. "You really have been living under a rock. He basically owns this city. Real estate, hotels, clubs, and allegedly some less legal enterprises. The Park family controls everything from here to the West Coast. Nobody messes with them." "He's Mafia?" Adriana whispered, though the word felt dramatic on her tongue. "If by Mafia you mean obscenely powerful, dangerous, and untouchable, then yes." Keisha grabbed her arm. "And currently sending one of his men over here, so try to act normal." A man in a dark suit approached them with military precision. "Mr. Park requests the pleasure of your company," he said, looking directly at Adriana. "I don't think," she started. "Tell Mr. Park I said no thank you," Adriana said, lifting her chin. She'd just escaped one controlling man. She wasn't about to walk into the arms of another, no matter how attractive. The man looked genuinely confused, as if he'd never delivered a rejection before. He returned to the VIP section, and Adriana watched Min-jun's eyebrows rise slightly. Then he did something unexpected. A slow smile spread across his face, transforming his severe features into something dangerously appealing. He stood, and Adriana's stomach flipped. He was tall, lean, but powerfully built, with the controlled grace of someone trained in combat. He moved through the crowd like a predator, people unconsciously parting for him. When he reached her, the air seemed to thicken. "You turned me down," he said, his voice a low, accented rumble that did things to her insides she didn't want to examine. "Do you know how rarely that happens?" "I'm guessing never?" Adriana met his eyes, refusing to be intimidated. "Never," he confirmed, and that smile appeared again, sharp and intrigued. "Min-jun Park." He extended his hand. "Adriana Williams." His hand engulfed hers, warm and surprisingly gentle despite the calluses she felt. The touch sent electricity up her arm. "Dance with me, Adriana Williams." It wasn't quite a question, but it wasn't quite a command either. Something in between that made her want to say yes just to see what would happen. "I don't dance with strangers," she said. "Then we should get to know each other." His thumb brushed across her knuckles before he released her hand. "What brings a woman who doesn't dance with strangers to a club? A friend who thinks I need to have fun. And are you? Having fun?" "I was," until a dangerous man started talking to me. His laugh was quiet but genuine. Dangerous. I like that you see it. Most people pretend not to. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. But I promise you, Adriana, you're perfectly safe. Unless you don't want to be. She should walk away. Every rational thought screamed at her to put distance between herself and this man who radiated power and danger. But something reckless had awakened in her. Something that had been sleeping for too long. One dance, she heard herself say. Triumph flashed in his eyes, but he masked it quickly, offering his arm. Keisha gave her a wide-eyed look that said, "What are you doing?" And Adriana gave her a look back that said, "I have no idea." The music shifted as they reached the dance floor, slowing into something sultry and hypnotic. Min-jun pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other still holding hers. They moved together with surprising ease, his body leading hers through the rhythm. "You dance well for someone who doesn't dance with strangers," he murmured. "My grandmother taught me. She said a woman who can dance can handle anything life throws at her." Smart woman. She was. Adriana felt the familiar pang of loss. She passed 2 years ago. Something softened in his expression. "I lost my mother 5 years ago. The people who shape us leave the biggest holes." It was the most human thing he had said, and it cracked something in her armor. Here was this man, this allegedly dangerous criminal, and he understood loss, understood grief. The song ended, but neither of them moved apart. "Come upstairs with me," Min-jun said. And this time it was definitely a command wrapped in invitation. Just to talk. Away from all this noise. Every warning bell rang in her head. But standing there, pressed against him, feeling alive for the first time in months, Adriana made a choice that would change everything. Okay. The private room above Inferno was nothing like the club below. Here, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Manhattan skyline. Soft lighting, expensive furniture, and an eerie quiet that felt like stepping into another world. Min-jun poured them both drinks, whiskey for him, wine for her, and handed her a glass. "To dangerous strangers," he toasted. "To reckless decisions," she countered, and they drank. He moved to the window, and she joined him, the city sprawling below them like fallen stars. "Tell me something true, Adriana." The request surprised her. "What do you mean?" "Something real. Not small talk. Not the version of yourself you show the world." He turned to face her. "Something true." Maybe it was the alcohol or the surreal nature of the night, or the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. "I was engaged," she said. "He cheated on me with my coworker. I found out 3 months ago, and I've been dead inside ever since. Tonight is the first night I've felt anything." Min-jun's jaw tightened. He's a fool. Maybe. Or maybe I wasn't enough. No. His hand came up to her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone with surprising tenderness. "He wasn't enough for you. There's a difference." Adriana's breath hitched at his touch. "Your turn." "Something true." His eyes darkened. "I'm not a good man, Adriana. The things people say about me, the rumors, most of them are true. I've hurt people. I've destroyed people. And I would do it again to protect what's mine. Then why tell me? Why not let me believe you're just a wealthy businessman? Because you deserve honesty. And because..." He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. "I want you to know exactly what you're getting into when I kiss you." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "That's presumptuous. What makes you think I want you to kiss me? Because you're still here. Because you're leaning into me right now. Because I can see your pulse racing in your throat." His thumb moved to that very spot, pressing gently. "Tell me I'm wrong." She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. "Kiss me," she whispered. Min-jun's control shattered. His mouth crashed against hers with a hunger that stole her breath. This wasn't a gentle first kiss. This was possession, claiming, a collision of need that had been building since they locked eyes across the club. His hand fisted in her hair while the other pulled her body flush against his, and Adriana surrendered to it, kissing him back with equal desperation. He tasted like whiskey and danger and something uniquely him. When his tongue swept into her mouth, a moan escaped her throat, and she felt his answering growl rumble through his chest. He walked her backward until her back hit the window, the cool glass contrasting with the heat of his body pressed against her. "Tell me to stop," he said against her lips, his hand sliding up her thigh through the slit in her dress. "Tell me to stop and I will." But Adriana was done with stopping, done with being careful, done with playing it safe. "Don't stop," she breathed. "Don't you dare stop." His eyes blazed with heat and something darker, something possessive that should have scared her but only made her want him more. He kissed her again, slower this time but somehow more intense, like he was memorizing the taste of her. His hand reached her hip, then her waist, then higher, and when his thumb brushed the underside of her breast through the thin fabric, she arched into him. "You're so fucking beautiful," he murmured against her neck, his accent thicker now, lips trailing fire down to her collarbone. "Do you have any idea what you do to me?" She could feel exactly what she did to him, the hard length of him pressed against her stomach. Her hands went to his jacket, pushing it off his shoulders with trembling fingers, then to his shirt buttons. She needed to feel his skin, needed more than this maddening barrier of clothing between them. "Bedroom," he said roughly, catching her hands. "I'm not taking you against a window for our first time." He swept her into his arms, actually lifted her like she weighed nothing, and carried her through a door she hadn't noticed. The bedroom was all dark wood and masculine elegance, dominated by a massive bed with black silk sheets that looked like it could handle anything they threw at it. Min-jun laid her down gently, a contrast to the fierce hunger in his eyes as he looked down at her, his body caging hers. "Last chance, beautiful. Once I have you, I won't want to let you go." The warning in his words should have terrified her. Instead, it sent a thrill through her entire body. "Then don't let go." Something feral flashed across his face. He kissed her again, his body settling between her thighs, and she wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer. His hands found the zipper of her dress, sliding it down with agonizing slowness. "You're killing me," she gasped. "Good," he said against her skin, peeling the dress away inch by inch, kissing each bit of newly exposed skin. "I want you desperate for me. I want you to remember this night every time you close your eyes." When the dress finally pooled on the floor and she lay before him in only black lace, his sharp intake of breath was worth every moment of tortuous anticipation. "Fucking perfect," he breathed, his hands skimming over her curves with reverent hunger. Adriana reached for his shirt, making quick work of the remaining buttons. When she pushed it off his shoulders, her breath caught. His body was lean muscle and controlled power, with scars that told stories she might never know. She traced one along his ribs with her fingertips. "Knife fight," he said simply. 3 years ago. Does it hurt?" "Not anymore." He captured her hand, bringing it to his lips. "Nothing hurts right now except how much I want you." He kissed his way down her body, and Adriana lost herself in sensation. His mouth, his hands, the delicious weight of him. When he finally removed the last barriers between them and settled between her thighs, she was trembling with need. "Look at me," he commanded, and she opened her eyes to find him watching her with an intensity that stole her breath. "I want to see your face when I make you mine." He pushed into her slowly, and the feeling of fullness, of completion, made her cry out. He groaned against her neck, his control hanging by a thread. "Perfect," he whispered. "You feel perfect." They moved together, finding a rhythm that was both tender and desperate, building toward something that felt bigger than just physical pleasure. When Adriana shattered, Min-jun swallowed her cries with his kiss, following her over the edge moments later with her name on his lips. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts still racing, sweat cooling on their skin. Min-jun pulled her against his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her back. "Stay tonight," he said quietly. Adriana knew she should go. This was supposed to be a one-night escape, nothing more. But lying there in his arms, feeling more alive than she had in years, she couldn't bring herself to leave. "Okay," she whispered. Neither of them spoke the words that hung in the air, that this felt like more than one night. That something had shifted between them that couldn't be undone. That tomorrow everything would change. Min-jun held her tighter, as if he could already feel her slipping away, and Adriana let herself drift off to sleep, not knowing that the man whose arms she'd fallen asleep in was about to turn her entire world upside down. Adriana woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the scent of expensive cologne on silk sheets. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the previous night came rushing back. The club, the dancing, Min-jun Park's intense gaze, and everything that had happened in this very bed. She sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest, and found herself alone. The space beside her was empty but still warm. Voices drifted from beyond the bedroom door, low, speaking rapidly in Korean. Min-jun's voice was calm, authoritative, but there was an edge to it that made her skin prickle. Her dress lay draped over a chair, and next to it, she noticed a white shirt that definitely belonged to Min-jun. She slipped it on, the fabric soft and expensive, falling to mid-thigh. As she moved toward the door, she caught her reflection in a full-length mirror. Tousled curls, kiss-swollen lips, and the shirt marking her with his scent. She looked thoroughly ravished. The voices grew sharper as she approached the door. She pressed her ear to it, knowing she shouldn't eavesdrop but unable to resist. "Can't afford distractions right now," a male voice said in English, heavily accented. "The Italians are already questioning your judgment. Taking a random woman to your private room? This isn't like you, Hyung. Watch your tone, Jay." Min-jun's voice was ice. "My personal life is not your concern. It is when it affects our business. The shipment arrives in 3 days. We need you focused, not distracted by some pretty—" The sound of something slamming cut him off. "Finish that sentence and see what happens." A tense silence followed. Then the other man spoke again, more carefully. "I'm just saying she's a complication. You know the rules. No attachments. Nothing that can be used against us. She's already gone as far as you're concerned. Now leave. I'll handle the shipment." Footsteps approached the door. Adriana scrambled back, diving onto the bed just as the door opened. Min-jun entered, still wearing his dress pants from last night but shirtless now, phone in hand. When he saw her sitting there in his shirt, something shifted in his expression. Possessiveness mixed with conflict. "You're awake," he said, setting the phone down. "I heard voices." His jaw tightened. "Business. Nothing to concern you. Is that what I am? A concern?" Adriana kept her voice light, but the conversation she'd overheard had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. This was supposed to be simple, one night of escape, then back to her normal life. But looking at him standing there, all controlled power and barely suppressed intensity, nothing felt simple. Min-jun crossed to the bed in 3 strides, catching her chin between his fingers. "You're many things, Adriana, but a concern isn't one of them." He kissed her, slow and deep, and she melted into it despite her better judgment. When he pulled back, his dark eyes searched hers. "Stay for breakfast. I should go. Keisha's probably losing her mind. I never came home last night." "Then call her." He handed her his phone. "Tell her you're safe." The casual gesture felt intimate somehow, trusting her with his phone. As Adriana dialed Keisha's number, Min-jun disappeared into what she assumed was a bathroom. The phone rang twice before Keisha answered. Frantic. "Girl, where the hell are you? I've been calling all night. Are you okay? Did that Mafia boss kidnap you? Should I call the police?" "Keisha, breathe. I'm fine. I stayed with him." Dead silence. Then, "You stayed with Min-jun Park. You stayed with the most dangerous man in New York. Please tell me you didn't." "I did." A squeal loud enough to damage hearing. "Oh my God, Adriana. Details. Now, was it good? Please tell me it was good, because if you're going to risk your life for Dick, it better be phenomenal." "It was phenomenal," Adriana admitted. unable to stop the smile spreading across her face. Keisha, I don't know what I'm doing. This was supposed to be one night. But you don't want it to be. It wasn't a question. I don't know what I want. He's dangerous, Keisha. Like actually dangerous. I heard him talking to someone about shipments and Italians and Adriana. Keisha's voice turned serious. Listen to me. Whatever you're feeling, whatever happened last night, you need to be careful. Men like Min-jun Park don't do relationships. They do arrangements and transactions. Don't confuse good sex with something real. Before Adriana could respond, Min-jun emerged from the bathroom in fresh clothes. Dark jeans and a black t-shirt that somehow looked as expensive as his suit. He'd heard her side of the conversation. She could tell by the way his expression had shuddered. I have to go, Adriana said quietly. I'll text you later. She ended the call and handed the phone back. The easy intimacy from moments before had evaporated, replaced by awkward tension. Your friend's right, Min-jun said, his voice carefully neutral. Last night was amazing, but I'm not the relationship type, Adriana. My life doesn't have room for complications. The words stung more than they should have. I didn't ask for a relationship. No. He moved closer, backing her against the headboard. Then what do you call this? What do you call the way you're looking at me right now? I don't know, she admitted, refusing to drop her gaze. But I'm not some naive girl who's going to fall apart, because a one-night stand stays a one-night stand. I knew what this was. Did you? His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her lower lip. Because I'm not sure I did. Her heart hammered. What does that mean? It means I can't stop thinking about you. It means every instinct I have is telling me to let you walk out that door and never look back. But the thought of watching you leave makes me want to burn the world down. His intensity was almost frightening. It means you're dangerous for me, Adriana Williams. Then let me go, she whispered, even as her body betrayed her, leaning into his touch. I should. His mouth was inches from hers. I really should. But he kissed her instead, hard and desperate. And Adriana knew she was in trouble. Deep, complicated, possibly deadly trouble. The kiss was interrupted by his phone buzzing insistently. Min-jun cursed in Korean and pulled away, checking the screen. His expression darkened. I have to go, he said abruptly. There's a car waiting downstairs. Driver will take you anywhere you need to go. The sudden shift left her reeling. Just like that. Just like that. But his eyes told a different story. This is my world, Adriana. Business doesn't wait. Problems don't solve themselves. She slipped off the bed, gathering her dress. Then I'll get out of your way. He caught her wrist as she passed. That's not what I want. But it's what you're choosing. She pulled free, pride keeping her spine straight even as disappointment flooded through her. It's fine, Min-jun. I'm a grown woman. I knew the score. Something like regret flashed across his face, but his phone buzzed again, and the moment shattered. He left without another word, and Adriana stood alone in his bedroom, holding her dress, wondering how one night had managed to mess her up so thoroughly. The car was a sleek black Mercedes with a driver who didn't speak and didn't ask questions. Adriana gave him her address and spent the ride staring out the window, trying to process everything. One night, that's all it was supposed to be. So why did it feel like something had shifted fundamentally in her world? She made it inside her apartment, exhausted and emotionally wrung out, only to find Keisha sitting on her couch with coffee and a look that said, "We need to talk." "Spill," Keisha commanded. "Everything." Adriana did, leaving out the intimate details but sharing the connection she'd felt, the warning about his dangerous life, the confusing goodbye. Keisha listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned with each revelation. "Adriana," she said finally, "you're falling for him. I'm not. Don't lie to yourself. I know you. I know that look in your eyes. You're falling, and that's terrifying because men like him don't catch people. They let them drop. It was one night, Keisha. I'm not going to see him again. Even as she said it, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Don't think this is over. I'm not done with you yet. MJ, her heart raced as she stared at the message. Keisha looked over her shoulder and whistled low. So much for one night, she muttered. Girl, you're in way deeper than you think. Adriana's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should ignore it, should delete the message and move on with her life. Instead, she found herself typing. Then what is this? The response came immediately. Something dangerous. Something I should walk away from. But I've never been good at doing what I should. Have dinner with me tonight. Keisha grabbed the phone. Do not respond to that. Adriana, seriously, this is not a romance novel. This is real life, and real life mafia bosses do not make good boyfriends. They make good news stories about women who disappeared. But Adriana's mind was already racing ahead, remembering the way Min-jun had looked at her. The vulnerability hidden beneath his dangerous exterior. The connection that had felt so real. Maybe Keisha was right. Maybe she was being naive. Or maybe, just maybe, some things were worth the risk. She took the phone back and typed. Where and when? My restaurant. Jade Dragon. 8 p.m. Come alone. You're insane, Keisha announced. Completely, certifiably insane. Probably, Adriana agreed. But she was already planning what to wear. Her pulse quickening with anticipation and fear in equal measure. What she didn't know, what Min-jun hadn't told her, was that his world was about to explode. That the shipment his associate had mentioned was $20 million of stolen diamonds. That the Italians who questioned his judgment were planning to take him down. And that by agreeing to see him again, Adriana had just painted a target on her own back. In his office across town, Min-jun stared at his phone, Adriana's agreement glowing on the screen. His right-hand man, Jay, stood across from him, arms crossed. This is a mistake, Jay said flatly. Probably, Min-jun agreed, echoing Adriana's words without knowing it. She's a civilian. She doesn't belong in our world. If the Italians find out about her, they won't. You can't promise that. Min-jun's eyes were cold as he looked up. Then I'll make sure anyone who tries to touch her regrets it. Jay shook his head. You're compromised. For the first time in your life, you're compromised. And that's going to get people killed. Then let them come, Min-jun said quietly, but his hand tightened around his phone, because Jay was right. For the first time in his carefully controlled life, Min-jun Park had found something, someone, that mattered more than his empire. And in his world, that was the most dangerous thing of all. The Jade Dragon occupied the top floor of a building Min-jun owned in Midtown. Adriana stepped out of the elevator into an entrance that took her breath away. Red lacquered walls, golden dragon motifs, and dim lighting that made everything feel intimate and slightly dangerous. A hostess greeted her with a bow and led her through the main dining room, where Manhattan's elite murmured over expensive wine and delicate dishes. They passed through it all to a private room at the back, separated by ornate sliding doors. The hostess knocked once, then slid the door open. Min-jun stood by the window, silhouetted against the city lights, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit. When he turned, the intensity in his gaze made her stomach flip. You came, he said, as if he doubted she would. You asked. Adriana had chosen a deep burgundy dress that hugged her curves, her hair in loose curls over one shoulder. The way his eyes darkened as they traveled over her told her she'd chosen well. He crossed to her in 3 strides, cupping her face in his hands. I shouldn't have texted you. I should have let you go. But you didn't. No. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I'm not that strong. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and Adriana melted into it, all her reservations dissolving. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. We should eat, he said, though neither of them moved. We should, she agreed, her hands fisted in his jacket. It took several more minutes before they actually made it to the table. Dinner was a procession of exquisite dishes, each one more delicious than the last. Min-jun watched her with every bite, clearly pleased by her reactions. This is incredible, Adriana said, savoring a piece of perfectly prepared fish. Do you always eat like this? Only when I'm trying to impress someone. Is it working? His smile was slow and devastating. You tell me. They talked through dinner, real conversation that went beyond surface pleasantries. He told her about growing up in Seoul, coming to New York at 15, building his empire from nothing. She told him about her work as a graphic designer, her dreams of starting her own agency, her close relationship with her grandmother who'd raised her. She sounds remarkable, Min-jun said. She was. She always said I should find a man who looked at me like I was the sun and he'd been living in darkness. Adriana paused, meeting his eyes. I'm starting to understand what she meant. Something fierce flashed across his face. Adriana! The door slammed open. 3 men burst in, guns drawn. Min-jun moved with lightning speed, shoving Adriana behind him as he pulled his own weapon from somewhere. A gun she hadn't known he was carrying. Min-jun Park, the lead man said in heavily accented English. Italian, Adriana realized with ice in her veins. We need to talk about your recent acquisition. This isn't the time or place, Carletti. Min-jun's voice was deadly calm, but she could feel the tension radiating from him. I disagree. You steal from us, you think there won't be consequences. Carletti's eyes flicked to Adriana. Pretty girl. Be a shame if something happened to her. Everything happened at once. Min-jun fired, Carletti dove for cover, and someone grabbed Adriana from behind. A 4th man she hadn't seen. She screamed, fighting, but he was too strong, dragging her toward the door. Then Min-jun was there, a blur of controlled violence. He broke the man's arm with a sickening crack, caught Adriana as she stumbled, and put 3 bullets in Carletti's men with terrifying precision. Carletti himself was on the ground, bleeding from his shoulder. Touch her again, Min-jun said, his gun pressed to Carletti's head. And I'll kill everyone you've ever loved. Tell your boss the diamonds stay with me. This is my city now. He let Carletti crawl away, his men dragging him out. The moment they were gone, Min-jun turned to Adriana, hands running over her, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did he hurt you? I'm fine, she gasped, though she was shaking violently. Min-jun, what diamonds? What's happening? His jaw tightened. We need to leave. Now. He pulled her through a back entrance she hadn't noticed, down a service elevator, and into an underground garage where a car waited with the engine running. Jay was in the driver's seat. The penthouse is compromised, Jay said as they climbed in. Italians hit it 20 minutes ago. The safe house in Brooklyn, Min-jun ordered, then turned to Adriana. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have brought you here. What diamonds? Adriana demanded, her fear crystallizing into anger. What the hell have you dragged me into? Min-jun's expression was torn between regret and something that looked like desperation. 3 weeks ago, the Carletti family tried to move 20 million in stolen diamonds through my port. I intercepted them, took the diamonds. It was business, Adriana. Just business. Just business? They just tried to kidnap me. They know about me now. They know. Her voice broke as the reality crashed over her. I can't go home. They know where I live, don't they? We're handling it, Jay said from the front seat. Your apartment's being watched. Your friend Keisha is being relocated to a hotel under protection. You're watching my best friend? Adriana's voice rose. You're controlling my entire life now? I'm keeping you alive. Min-jun's control finally cracked. Do you understand what these people do? What they would have done to you to get to me? I'm trying to protect you. I didn't ask for your protection. I didn't ask for any of this. I know. His voice dropped. I know, and I'm sorry. If I could take it back. If I could have walked away from you that first night. But you didn't. No. Because I'm selfish. Because from the moment I saw you, I wanted you. And now you're in danger because of it. He looked at her, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. I'll fix this. I'll end the Carlettis, secure your safety, and then you can go back to your life. You'll never see me again. The words hit her like a physical blow. Is that what you want? It's what's best for you. That's not what I asked. Min-jun's hands fisted. No, it's not what I want. I want to keep you. I want to lock you away somewhere safe and never let you out of my sight. I want to fall asleep with you every night and wake up to your face every morning. I want things I have no right to want. He laughed bitterly. You asked what this is? It's me being reckless. It's me putting what I want ahead of what's smart for the first time in my life. And it's going to get you killed. Adriana's heart was racing. She should be terrified. Should demand he take her to the police, to the FBI, anywhere away from him. Instead, she found herself saying, Then don't let me get killed. He stared at her. What? You heard me. If you want me, then keep me safe. Don't push me away because you're scared. Fight for this. Fight for us. Adriana, I'm scared too, she interrupted. I'm absolutely terrified, but I'm also alive for the first time in years. You make me feel alive. And maybe that makes me crazy. Maybe I'm going to regret this, but I don't want to walk away. Not yet. Something broke in Min-jun's expression. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her with desperate intensity. You're insane, he murmured against her lips. Completely, she agreed. So what are we going to do? We're going to end this war, he said, his voice hardening with determination. And then I'm going to keep you, if you'll have me. From the front seat, Jay groaned. This is a terrible idea. Probably, Min-jun agreed, pulling Adriana closer. But I'm done pretending I can let her go. The safe house was a converted warehouse in Red Hook. Nondescript from the outside but luxurious within. Min-jun's people had clearly prepared it. Security cameras, armed guards, and enough supplies to withstand a siege. You'll stay here until this is resolved, Min-jun said, showing her to a bedroom. I need to handle the Carletis. How? His expression went cold. By reminding them why no one challenges the Park family. Min-jun. She grabbed his arm. Don't do anything that will get you killed. Please. He softened, pulling her close. I won't. I promise. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Adriana knew she shouldn't. Knew trusting a man she'd known for less than 48 hours. A criminal, a killer, was insane. But looking into his eyes, feeling the way his hands trembled slightly as they held her, she realized something terrifying. She was falling in love with him. I trust you, she whispered. He kissed her forehead, then her lips, then pulled away before either of them could take it further. I'll be back soon. Jay will stay with you. He left, and Adriana was alone with Jay, who looked at her with a mixture of respect and concern. You really care about him, Jay said. It wasn't a question. I barely know him. That's not what I asked. Adriana sighed. Yes, care about him. Which is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done. Jay's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, I've known Min-jun Hyung for 15 years. I've never seen him like this. He's always been controlled, calculated. You make him reckless, but you also make him happy. He paused. Just don't break his heart. He acts tough, but there's less of him than you'd think. Before Adriana could respond, gunfire erupted outside. The attack came from two directions. Carletti's men had found them faster than anyone anticipated. Jay shoved Adriana into a reinforced panic room as bullets shattered windows. Stay here, he commanded. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Then he was gone, and Adriana was alone in the dark, listening to the sounds of war outside. Minutes felt like hours. She heard shouting in multiple languages, more gunfire, and then, terrifyingly, silence. The door to the panic room opened. Adriana pressed herself against the back wall, heart hammering. Min-jun appeared in the doorway, blood on his white shirt, but alive. Alive and looking at her like she was oxygen. It's over, he said roughly. It's over. She flew into his arms, and he held her so tightly she could barely breathe. I thought when I heard the shooting, I'm okay. You're okay. That's all that matters. He pulled back to look at her. Carletti's dead. His organization is in chaos. The diamonds are being returned to their original owners through intermediaries. The war is over, Adriana. You're safe. Relief flooded through her so powerfully her legs gave out. Min-jun caught her, lifting her into his arms and carrying her to the bedroom. He set her on the bed gently, then started to pull away. Don't, she said, catching his hand. Stay. Please stay. He looked at his bloody clothes. I should clean up. I don't care. I need you here. I need to know you're really okay. So he stayed, lying beside her on the bed, and she curled into him despite the blood, despite everything. His heart beat steady and strong under her ear. I killed a man tonight, Min-jun said quietly.
Carletti.
I looked him in the eyes and pulled the trigger. Does that scare you? Yes, Adriana admitted. But not as much as the thought of losing you does. Does that make me a bad person? It makes you mine, he said fiercely, tipping her face up to his. If you'll have me, all of me, the empire, the danger, the blood, I can't promise you safe or normal. But I can promise you I'll love you until my last breath. I'll protect you with everything I have. And I'll spend every day trying to deserve you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You love me. Completely. Utterly. It's insane, I've known you 2 days. But I've never been more certain of anything. I love you too, she whispered. God help me. I love you too. He kissed her then, tender and desperate and full of promise. And as they lost themselves in each other, the danger and violence of the night fading away, Adriana knew her life had irrevocably changed. She'd fallen in love with a monster who looked at her like she was salvation, and she wouldn't have it any other way. 6 months later, Adriana stood in Min-jun's penthouse, their penthouse now, watching the sun rise over Manhattan. So much had changed since that first night at Inferno. Her design agency had launched 3 months ago, funded by Min-jun but operated entirely by her. She'd insisted on keeping her independence, and he'd respected that, even as he quietly ensured her first clients were major players who would establish her reputation. You're up early? Min-jun's voice came from behind her, his arms sliding around her waist. Couldn't sleep. She leaned back against him. Big day. Today she was meeting his family. His father had died years ago, but his mother was flying in from Seoul with his younger sister. The 2 most important women in his life, coming to meet the woman who'd somehow captured his heart. They'll love you, Min-jun murmured against her neck. How can you be sure? Because I love you. That's all my mother needs to know. But Adriana was nervous anyway. She'd learned so much about Min-jun's world in the past 6 months. The legitimate businesses that formed the public face of his empire, the less legitimate operations he was slowly phasing out, the delicate balance of power and respect that kept New York's underworld from descending into chaos. She'd also learned about the man beneath the dangerous exterior, the way he liked his coffee, how he had nightmares sometimes about his father's death, that he donated millions anonymously to children's charities, that he was terrifyingly efficient in business but surprisingly gentle with her, that he loved with an intensity that should have frightened her but instead made her feel cherished beyond measure. The doorbell rang at precisely 10 a.m. Min-jun squeezed her hand once before going to answer it. His mother was elegant and sharp-eyed, her designer clothes and perfect posture radiating authority. His sister, Hannah, was 22 and beautiful, with the same intensity as her brother but wrapped in a friendly smile. Mrs. Park's gaze swept over Adriana with clinical assessment. Then she spoke in rapid Korean to Min-jun. He responded firmly, and Adriana caught her own name several times. Finally, Mrs. Park switched to English. My son tells me you're the reason he smiles now. I hope so, Adriana said. He also tells me you didn't know who he was when you met, that you turned him down at first. A small smile played at Mrs. Park's lips. Is this true? Yes, ma'am. Good. He needed someone who would challenge him. Someone who saw the man, not the empire. She stepped closer, her expression softening. Thank you for making my son happy. After his father died, I worried he would lose himself in revenge and darkness. But you've brought him back to light. Adriana felt tears prick her eyes. He brought me back too. Mrs. Park pulled her into an unexpected embrace. Then your family now. The rest of the day passed in a blur of conversation and laughter. Hannah immediately bonded with Adriana, demanding to know every detail of how they met. When Adriana admitted it was at a nightclub, Hannah shrieked with delight. Oh my God, Appa at a nightclub. That's so unlike him. I was there on business, Min-jun protested. Sure you were, Hannah teased. Business that involved dancing with gorgeous women. One gorgeous woman, he corrected, pulling Adriana close. The only one that mattered. That evening, after his mother and sister had left for their hotel, Min-jun led Adriana out onto the penthouse balcony. The city sparkled below them, millions of lights against the darkness. That went well, Adriana said. I told you they'd love you. He turned her to face him, suddenly serious. Adriana, these past 6 months with you have been the happiest of my life. You've changed everything. Made me want to be better, to build something legitimate, something our children could be proud of. Her heart skipped. Our children. He pulled a small box from his pocket, dropping to one knee. Inside was the most beautiful ring she'd ever seen. A stunning diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like stars. Marry me, he said simply. Not because it's logical or because we should take it slow. Marry me because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Because you're my home, my peace, my everything. Marry me because I want to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. Adriana's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Yes, God, yes. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, catching her as she threw herself into his arms. They kissed under the stars, the city their witness, and Adriana felt like the luckiest woman alive. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I love you more, he countered. Impossible. Want to bet? She laughed, and he swept her into his arms, carrying her back inside to spend the rest of the night proving just how much they loved each other. The wedding took place 3 months later in a private ceremony that blended Korean and American traditions. Keisha was maid of honor, still somewhat shocked that her best friend was marrying a reformed crime boss, but ultimately happy for her. You're glowing, Keisha whispered as they waited for the ceremony to start. Like genuinely glowing. Marriage to a dangerous man suits you. He's not dangerous anymore, Adriana protested. Well, not as dangerous. He's going legitimate. Sure, honey. Keep telling yourself that. But it was true. Min-jun had spent the past year systematically restructuring his empire. The illegal operations had been sold off or shut down. He'd partnered with federal prosecutors to bring down the last of the old guard who refused to adapt. It had been risky. Some called it suicide, but Min-jun had pulled it off, emerging with a streamlined, legitimate business empire and the grudging respect of law enforcement. The music began. Adriana took her father's arm. He'd flown in from Chicago, still processing that his baby girl was marrying into Korean royalty, criminal or otherwise, and walked down the aisle. Min-jun waited at the altar in a custom tuxedo, and when he saw her in her white dress, his composure cracked. Tears actually shimmered in his eyes as she approached. You're so beautiful, he whispered when she reached him. You're not so bad yourself. They spoke their vows with their families watching. His mother crying softly, his sister recording everything on her phone, Keisha sniffling loudly in the front row. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Min-jun kissed her with such passion that several guests whistled. Forever, he murmured against her lips. Forever, she agreed. The reception was a celebration that bridged two worlds. Korean traditions mixed with American music, Min-jun's business associates mingling with Adriana's design clients, family and friends coming together to celebrate a love that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. During their first dance, Adriana looked up at her husband, and felt overwhelming gratitude. What are you thinking? Min-jun asked. That I'm glad I went to that club. That I'm glad I said yes to one dance. That I'm glad I was reckless enough to fall in love with you. Not as glad as I am. He spun her out and pulled her back. You saved me, Adriana. I was drowning in darkness, and you pulled me into light. We saved each other, she corrected. Later, as they cut the cake and toasted with champagne and danced until her feet hurt, Adriana reflected on the past year. The danger, the fear, the uncertainty. All of it had been worth it for this moment. For the man who held her like she was precious. For the family they were building. For the future stretching out before them, full of possibility. When they finally left the reception, sneaking away to Min-jun's private plane that would take them to Bora Bora for their honeymoon, Adriana turned back for one last look. Keisha gave her a thumbs up. Hannah blew kisses. Mrs. Park nodded with approval. Ready? Min-jun asked. For anything, Adriana said. As long as it's with you. They boarded the plane hand in hand, beginning the next chapter of their impossible love story. 3 years later, Adriana walked through the doors of their brownstone in Brooklyn, exhausted from a client meeting but happy. Her design agency had grown beyond her wildest dreams, with offices now in New York, LA, and Seoul. Min-jun's legitimate business empire had flourished as well, proving that you could be successful without crossing legal lines. I'm home, she called out. Sounds of chaos greeted her. Laughter, music, and the patter of small feet. She followed the noise to the living room and stopped in the doorway, her heart melting at the scene. Min-jun sat on the floor, surrounded by toys, with their 2-year-old daughter, Jia, climbing on his back while he pretended to be a horse. Their 6-month-old son, Daniel, lay on a playmat nearby, watching his father and sister with wide, fascinated eyes. Daddy, faster, Jia demanded in a mix of English and Korean. Your daughter is a tyrant, Min-jun said when he spotted Adriana, but his eyes were full of love. She gets it from you. Adriana crossed to them, bending down to kiss her husband and scoop up Daniel. The baby cooed, his chubby hand reaching for her face. How was your day? Perfect. We went to the park, had ice cream, don't look at me like that, it was a small cone, and video called Halmiani in Seoul. Your mother called too. She's still trying to convince us to have a third. Tell her to talk to me after I've had at least 2 full nights of sleep. Min-jun stood, lifting Jia into his arms, and came to stand beside Adriana. Together, they looked at their children, perfect blends of both of them, with Jia's dark curls and Daniel's serious expression. Can you believe this is our life? Min-jun asked softly. Some days, no. Adriana leaned against him. Some days I still can't believe I walked into that club, that I said yes to one dance. Best decision you ever made. Second best, she corrected. The best was saying yes when you proposed. I thought the best was agreeing to have children with me. That too. She turned to look at him. This man who'd been a stranger 3 years ago and was now her entire world. I love you, Min-jun Park. I love you more, Adriana Park. Jia squirmed between them. I love you most, she announced. They laughed, and Daniel made a gurgling sound that might have been agreement. Min-jun kissed Adriana, soft and sweet, while their children created chaos around them. Later, after the kids were in bed and they sat on their couch with wine, a ritual they'd maintained through pregnancies and sleepless nights, Adriana reflected on their journey. From a one-night stand that should have ended in disaster to a marriage built on trust and love. From danger and violence to domestic chaos and happiness. Do you ever miss it? She asked. The old life. Min-jun was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I miss the simplicity of it. The clear lines between enemy and ally. But then I come home to you and our children, and I remember what I would have lost if I'd kept that life. No amount of power or money is worth what I have now. Even on the days when Jia refuses to nap and Daniel spits up on your last clean shirt? Especially then. He pulled her closer. You gave me everything, Adriana. A real life. Family. A reason to be better. I'd go through it all again. The danger, the fear, the bullets. If it meant ending up here with you. She kissed him, slow and deep, tasting home and forever. No more bullets, please. I'd like to keep you around for at least 50 more years. 50 years minimum, he agreed. Probably more, Because I'm stubborn and I refuse to leave you. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights through their window. Somewhere out there, other people were having their own one-night stands, making their own reckless decisions. Adriana hoped at least some of them would be as lucky as she'd been, to find love in the most unexpected place, to build a life from the ashes of danger, to create a family from what should have been nothing more than a fleeting moment. Thank you, Min-jun said suddenly. For what? For seeing past the danger. For loving me when you shouldn't have. For giving me Jia and Daniel. For this life. He turned to face her, and the love in his eyes still took her breath away after all this time. Thank you for dancing with a dangerous stranger. Adriana smiled, remembering that first night, the club, the chemistry, the choice that had changed everything. Thank you for asking. And as they sat there, in their home, with their children sleeping down the hall and the promise of tomorrow stretching before them, Adriana knew she'd made the right choice. All those years ago, when she'd said yes to one dance with a man who should have been wrong for her but turned out to be exactly right. Their story had started with risk and danger, with reckless passion and impossible odds. But it had become something real, something lasting, something beautiful. A love story written in the margins between darkness and light, proving that sometimes, the most dangerous thing you can do is open your heart to a stranger. And sometimes, just sometimes, that stranger becomes your home.